Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today is November 20th. And that means it is November 20th. It is the day of the November 20th Atlanta MSNBC Washington Post debate number 5. Woo woo! Very excited. All right. And that means today is the day in which Andrew Yang shall leap up onto the political battlefield for the 5th consecutive time, right? And so today what I want to talk about is tonight when Andrew Yang strides forth onto the political battlefield, which mode will we see him in, all right? Now there are 3 modes that I think we could see Andrew Yang in, and they all come from the new Disney Plus show, The Mandalorian, all right? And so are we going to see melee Mandalorian, ranged Mandalorian, or disintegrator Mandalorian, all right? And I'll define what this is and why one of these modes will be in place for Andrew Yang. All right, let's get into this. All right, so why are we talking about Andrew Yang and the debate and the Mandalorian, right? Well, the Mandalorian is an incredibly powerful filter to understand Andrew Yang through, and specifically to understand Andrew Yang himself, because he is bounty hunting the presidency itself, right? So he's doing the same thing as the Mandalorian. He's going out and he's getting a prize and he's dragging it back, right? He needs to find it. He needs to find the path to it, and then he needs to take his opposition, right? All right. So in that mode, it's the same. The other thing that's really important about the Mandalorian is the absolute perfect filter to understand Andrew Yang's goals and what he has to accomplish. Because the show, The Mandalorian, is this incredibly unique thing. It's really special and really unique. And it's exactly what Andrew Yang has to accomplish, right? Now, what does the Mandalorian accomplish? The Mandalorian is so incredibly unique and rare and special and wonderful, right? And what is it, right? Well, guess what? The Mandalorian is a super unwoke show, right? Made by the most woke company in the world, right? Now, you will find virtually nothing that is woke in The Mandalorian. It's about a bounty hunter, right? On the grittiest, farthest periphery of the galaxy, right? And he straight murks people left and right. I mean, just every other scene, he's just murking people. It's just constantly, right? And he uses a wide range of tools to do this, right? Very unwoke, right? But The Mandalorian is sitting right there on Disney Plus, which is a super woke platform. It's Disney. Come on, Frozen 2 is about to drop, right? Super woke, right? So this and the point is, this is exactly what Andrew Yang has to do. He has to become the Mandalorian. He has to be this super unwoke thing to attract Trump voters, because that's the only way you're going to win. You cannot win attracting Democrats. You cannot do it, right? And the reason why is Democrats at a vastly higher number do not vote more than Republicans, right? Republicans show up, they show out, they're at the polls, they don't sleep on voting, right? Democrats absolutely sleep on voting, right? There are a ton of Democrats who are more likely to show up at a protest or a rally than they are at the voting booth, right? This is a very real thing, right? You cannot win just attracting Dems. You will lose. Hillary already proved this, right? Okay, all right. You have to take Trump voters. In order to take Trump voters, you gotta do some unwoke stuff, just like the Mandalorian, right? But the Mandalorian is showing that you can be super unwoke and be delivered by a woke platform. And that's exactly what Andrew Yang needs to be, right? He needs to be super unwoke to attract Trump voters and be delivered by the super woke platform of the Democrat Party, right? The Mandalorian is the absolute perfect filter for understanding Andrew Yang and understanding what Andrew Yang needs to accomplish, all right? All right, now, The Mandalorian, it is amazing. By the way, this contains spoilers. This content contains spoilers for episode 1 and episode 2 of The Mandalorian. All right. Okay. So The Mandalorian comes in 3 modes in the show so far. Okay. Mode number 1 is melee. Okay. In the first scene of The Mandalorian enters a cantina on a outer rim world, right? And he runs into some brigands, and he dispatches those brigands, and then he actually and none of those brigands are the person that he is bounty hunting, right? He comes across his bounty hunter mark, right? He comes across the person that he needs to apprehend and take into custody, and that he needs to, receive into his bounty hunting hold, right? Which, by the way, is carbonite. So he finds him, right? Well, basically, in order to get his first bounty, the Mandalorian uses melee. He just simply walks, and okay, we're going to use three terms now, right? Melee, ranged, disintegrator, okay? Melee and ranged, I'll define right now, okay? Melee is when a bounty hunter would use any of their tools that they would use when they're standing next to a person, okay? Melee is adjacent, right next to someone, okay? Ranged is one of your tools that you would use when you're at range, when you're 15, 30, 45 feet or more away from your bounty, right? That you're hunting, right? All right. So you have your melee and you have your ranged, right? We're not going to define disintegrator yet, okay? All right. Now, in the first scene of The Mandalorian uses melee. He just walks right up to his bounty. He puts a puck down on the table, and he goes, "You're my bounty. I'm taking you into custody," right? Like, I'm taking you with me, right? I'm taking possession of you. That's what he says, right? He doesn't even say. He's just like, "Hey, I'm here. Yeah, here's your bounty puck. Let's go," right? And he's in direct adjacent. He's in melee range. I'm sorry, excuse me. He's melee, right? He's right there. He's right next to his bounty, right? Forget the second word I used there. All right, melee, all right? So he uses melee to get his first bounty, right? Later on in the story, specifically in episode 2, right, he comes across desert brigands, right? They attack him in a group of 4, okay? He takes out his long iron. He wears his long iron on a long, a strap on his back, right? So he takes off his long iron. He raises it up, right? He sights his opposition. And then once he sights his opposition, he activates the long iron, right? His ranged tool, right? Because his opposition is about 30 feet away from him. He activates the long iron, and his opposition is lasered. The laser comes from the long iron and is now in contact. It transverses the range between the Mandalorian and his opposition, and so he uses this ranged tool to have his opposition meet with a laser, right? Okay, all right. Melee, ranged, right? Melee is ching, 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 right? And it's like metal on metal, right? All right. Ranged is pew, 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 right? It's a classic Star Wars sound, right? Okay. All right. Yeah. So a good example, yeah, melee, ranged. All right. So those are defined, okay? Now, how do those link to Andrew Yang? Melee, right? Andrew Yang, in the first 3 debates, was totally melee, right? Adjacent, right? He was using tools that were melee tools, right? No ranged, not powerful, only useful if the target is right next to you, right? Only useful if the opposition is directly next to you, right? All right. In debate number 4, right, Andrew Yang went into beast mode, and he absolutely used range tools, right? Bigger, more direct, activation of a range tool and sighting his opposition and making his opposition meet with a laser, right? It was just more powerful, more aggressive, right? Ranged, right? And it was a very high increase of aggression for Andrew Yang from debates 1, 2, 3 all the way to debate 4. I literally have videos right here on this channel that talk about when Andrew Yang was in path of peace mode, right? Those were his melee days, right? When we came to debate 4, we reached ranged mode, right? So you have melee Mandalorian, ranged Mandalorian, right? All right, now we got to talk about disintegrations, right? Star Wars is super special. It's iconic. It's one of the most special movies that's ever been made. It's really unique. It's really special. Okay. One of the best lines in all of the Star Wars trilogy, right? The original episodes 4, episodes 5, episode 6. One of the most iconic lines in all of the original trilogy by George Lucas is Darth Vader sends bounty hunters to get Princess Leia, who happens to be with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. Okay? He sends out bounty hunters. He says to Boba Fett, so this is Darth Vader, the most Max Zimp villain ever born, right? This pure cool, right? Says to a new villain who's the only Star Wars villain to ever challenge the pure, like, awesome villainry of Darth Vader. Darth Vader says to Boba Fett, right? He says, no disintegrations, right? It's an absolutely famous line in Star Wars. It's said in Empire Strikes Back when Darth Vader is dispatching bounty hunters to go get Princess Leia. He says it to Boba Fett, right? And Boba Fett, who, and by the way, the Mandalorian is a Mandalorian exactly the way Boba Fett was a Mandalorian. They both wear Mandalorian armor, okay? All right. So Darth Vader says no disintegrations. No disintegrations stood in Star Wars from like 1981 when Empire Strikes Back came out all the way up to 2019. So that's 9, 19, 29. For 38 years in Star Wars, no disintegration stood, right? But in 2019 in The Mandalorian, so disintegrations. We got to see a bounty hunter disintegration, multiples of them, in episode 2 of The Mandalorian. He disintegrates the desert brigands, right? He disintegrates multiple individual desert brigands. And what he does is he takes his long iron, which you can use to laser someone, right? And he puts in a special insert. And when a special insert is put into his long iron, it makes that long iron capable of a disintegration, right? This is huge in Star Wars. Like, this broke Star Wars history, right? Like, you know, Star Wars history, no disintegrations. It stood for 38 years. You never, ever, 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 ever saw a disintegration in Star Wars, right? But we all knew it was possible because Darth Vader had to say to Boba Fett, no disintegrations, right? Right. So that's the question. Are we going to see a disintegration tonight from Yang? Is Yang going to go into disintegration Mandalorian mode, right? He could. It's possible, right? Now, the reason why is he went debate 1, 2, and 3 in melee mode, right? Clink, 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 right? Just like, you know, metal on metal, right? Adjacent, 5 feet away, right? Melee. In debate 4, pew, 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 right? He went ranged Mandalorian mode, right? He lasered some opposition, right? The question is, tonight, do we get to see the episode 2 Mandalorian equivalent in politics, all right? Do we get to see a disintegration, right? Now, this would be a political attack that is absolutely devastating, that could take somebody out in one hit, right? I think it has happened in the past. I think there have been times where there are things that one politician will say to another politician that are so devastating that it puts them out of the race, right? Now, the reason why I think this is, I'm not positive it's happened before, but it could happen tonight, and Andrew Yang could be the one to do it, right? One of the reasons why is, one, Andrew Yang's crazy smart, right? And the reality is he has said this from the beginning. He is in it to win it, right? And the reality is, I would like to say, hey, we can't really do disintegrations in political, debate, right? But you can, and the reason why we know this is, basically, there's been a ramp up, right? There's been some really coarse discourse between the candidates, right? And so I really, and the biggest part is, this is very, very evident. The reason we can have a disintegration is these cameras, right? This is debate number 5, right? These people know, like, in order to really punch through and get real coverage, and Yang is certainly very aware of this, you need to do something special, right? So Yang, now here's the thing. Yang has been fighting with one hand tied behind his back for a while now, right? Yang Media blackout, and he hasn't had any money, right? Yang Media blackout's still in effect, right? No thanks to CNN, who did it literally a day ago, right? But the money part is fixed. Yang has money, right? And that means he's got real political advisors, and that means he can actually get some stuff done and make some very, very targeted political attacks that he can use on the debate stage. And we're no longer talking about if Andrew Yang will use attacks or not. He already did it. Like, he definitely went into, ranged Mandalorian mode in debate 4, right? So the question is, are we going to see Disintegrator Mandalorian tonight, right? All right, now I've been giving this some thought, and I think the answer is no. I think we're going to see ranged Mandalorian again. And the reason why is the one pushback. So Andrew Yang realized he's got to get in it, right? He's got to start interrupting people. He's got to come straight at people. He's got to attack them on their policies. He's got to go over time, right? Like all that kind of melee and ranged tactics, right? And the reality is, I think the thing is, like, Buttigieg just placed number 1 in Iowa, right? And Buttigieg has no business being in front of Yang, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why I think he would consider, using a special insert and going for a disintegration, right? But I think the reason why he's going to not is there's still the issue of the Harris attack. Harris attacked Biden in debate number 1. I think it's one of the pivotal moments of the entire election so far, and she's suffering today for it, right? In order to get that political attack to land on Biden, she had to go through Obama, and she had to go right to the heart of Biden. It was very, very personal. It was incredibly dated. It called into question Obama's ability to vet his employees. It was catastrophic, right? And she got a nice bump from it for a little while, and then she dropped like a stone, right? And so I think Yang is like, I don't know, man. Do I risk becoming the next Harris? I don't know. You don't want that to happen, right? It's tough. It's very, very tough. So, what are we going to see tonight? Are we going to see melee Mandalorian, ranged Mandalorian, or disintegrator Mandalorian? I think we're going to see ranged Mandalorian. Pew, pew, pew. And I would like to say I'm cool with that, but boy, did I like episode 2, man. Like, it really, like, Like, if all the stops are out, why not just go for it? I'm really on the fence. I think we absolutely will see ranged Mandalorian, but I'm really wondering if he should break out disintegrator mode Mandalorian. I don't think so. I don't think we should pull out disintegrator Mandalorian quite yet. But I'm also very, very convinced that the Mandalorian is absolutely the perfect filter with what Yang has to achieve. He has to do some very unwoke things, say some very unwoke, do and say some very unwoke things, and deliver it all under the most woke platform on the planet, which is the Democrat Party. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.